Welcome inside episode 514 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Pillar back in the Blue Mountains on a Sens game day. The Ottawa Senators host the Arizona Coyotes 2 weeks after an 8-5 loss in the desert.
Yeah, Ross, I'm glad to be home, and I hope the Sens are glad to be home up against Arizona so we can get a better result than last time, that's for sure. And speaking of being at home, you had boots on the ground in Winnipeg for the Belleville Senators games.
Absolutely. We'll get a recap of my weekend, some insight onto the Belleville Sens, who stood out for me, and of course, the Ottawa Senators did face Chicago in a game I think most fans and the team will want to forget. Today's episode of Locked On Senators is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered for all the odds, props, and more. Whenever you need gambling, you need BetOnline. It's where the game starts. Now let's start the show. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Monday, March 14th. We are exactly 1 week away from the NHL's trade deadline. Pilsy, how you feeling about the Senators and if they could be busy or not?
Well, if we're taking Pierre Dorion for his word, it does not sound like they're busy, Ross. I don't think there's a more disappointing thing you can hear from a general manager when you're a fan of a team that's still in the basement of the league and he says, yeah, the phones aren't really ringing off the hook here. And there's lots of UFAs to deal with. There are a lot of things still in the air for this Ottawa Senators team, and just the phones aren't really ringing. Great.
As if the pro scouting staff needed another slap in the face with the players that they've brought in, teams don't really even want. Although we've heard now that Victor Mente's agent has the ability to go out and find a trade for himself. I guess that means the team's having a little trouble doing it for him.
Hey, we'll take all the help we can get to try to get some of these UFAs out because, yeah, if Victor Mete needs a landing spot, Zach Sanford, or Chris Tierney, if their agents want to pitch in and start making calls, I don't mind that at all.
Do you think there's going to be any sort of left field moves that Pierre Dorion could make? We saw Ian Mendez's article where he threw around maybe you make Connor Brown available, although I would be firmly against that stance.
I mean, I'm just hoping the right field moves happen, Ross, or whatever the opposite of moves out of left field is, because they just need to clear out some of these bad contracts. And yeah, go ahead and read Ian Mendez's article at The Athletic. Always great at showing both sides of why they should keep him, why they should trade him. Check it out and you can decide. But yeah, I'm with you, Ross. At least for the time being, I would like to keep Connor Brown, especially with how thin the Ottawa Senators are on the right wing. And the guys coming up still need a bit of time. Sokolov, Boucher, those guys aren't quite ready to hop into NHL roles here. So, and Connor Brown, he can score shorthanded now, Ross. So you got to keep him in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. After games worth of chances, he finally converts on a 5-minute power play for Chicago on Saturday night. We'll recap that game in just a little bit. But first, I also wanted to ask you about the likelihood, if any, that they change up something on the decor going into the trade deadline, because I can't keep watching those 6 guys go out there. I should say 4, because Zub and Shabbat have never been the problem. And Holden wasn't an issue until he was paired with Nikita Zaitsev, who just anchors whoever he plays with.
Well, Ross, you asked me the likelihood. I'm going to say very close to 0% chance that they change anything, because why would they change anything now? Like, we can say we want them to, but they've trotted this group out time and time again. Nikita Zaitsev, you asked if anything is happening out of left field. He's not going anywhere. I can pretty much guarantee that. If there's moves like priorities that the Senators have, that Dorion has, trading Zaitsev probably isn't high on that list, which is not what fans want to hear. But we've said it before. I think the Senators have a higher opinion of Zaitsev than fans, reporters, other teams' fans, other teams' reporters, anyone else watching hockey has on Nikita Zaitsev. So I wouldn't get too excited about that. And then, yeah, if Mete's on the move, maybe we see him showcase in a couple games, but I mean, that doesn't move the needle too far one way or another.
Can't believe Nikita Zaitsev has played over 150 games for the Ottawa Senators. It's absolutely unacceptable. That being said, the Ottawa Senators did play and lose on Saturday, despite being up 2-0 after the first period, and a first period where they were shorthanded for 5 out of the 20 minutes. Parker Kelly kicked out on his first shift. Only 20 seconds of ice time for Parker Kelly. And the good news is it sounds like Connor Murphy is doing all right. He flew back with the team. So, of course, we wish him the best of health. However, I don't think the ref was even going to call a penalty before he saw the way Murphy fell to the ice.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, like, obviously you need to be sensitive when a guy gets stretchered off the ice. Like, that's a very serious incident, even though it was a classic hockey play. But I think, and, on Twitter, some people saying the onus is on the hitter, some people saying the guy getting hit can't turn like that. I think it's a bit of both, right? Like, if you're laying out a hit like that, you have to take some of the responsibility. But at the same token, if you're playing in the game of hockey, you know how dangerous it is to just quickly turn like that when you're up against the boards. So the person getting hit needs to take a bit of the responsibility as well. In no way, shape, or form was that an intent to injure by Parker Kelly. There was no vicious intent, nothing like that. And you could see how remorseful and how bad Parker Kelly felt after that hit. And we hope Connor Murphy's okay. Like you said, it sounds like he is, but that's a hit that if he doesn't make that quick turn, that happens a million times in the game of hockey, right? Like that's constantly happening up against the boards. You dump and chase, and then you're trying to make a play to separate the guy from the puck. So really, I don't think it's something that would have been as big of a deal if Connor Murphy doesn't get so hurt.
So the Senators are playing a Chicago team that only has 5 defensemen for all but 1 minute of ice time, which is what Murphy finished the game with. How do you think they could have taken better advantage of a shortened deep? Or wait, did they? Wait, 2, 4. They went 11-7 on Saturday.
They did?
Yeah. So I guess that there goes that theory, saying that you're playing down at defense. And yeah, Caleb Jones, Seth Jones, and I didn't just see double Jones. No,
yeah.
Then Jake McCabe, Calvin DeHaan, Eric Gustafson, and Riley Stillman. So they went 11-7. I guess that's exactly why you do it, just in case.
Hey, Guy Boucher was onto something. And yeah, Tyler Johnson also took a puck to the head, and he had definitely had a concussion. He looked woozy on the bench, so he had to leave the game as well. So Chicago was down 2 players for quite a while the Sens were down Parker Kelly. So shorthanded all over the ice for both teams.
Yeah, Alex DeBrincat led all players in ice time for the Chicago Blackhawks. 25 minutes and 15 seconds for him, 24:53 for Patrick Kane, and 24:07 for Dylan Strome, a potential trade target we've heard in rumors. Both Stromes, really. Both Ryan from the Rangers and Dylan here in Chicago, formerly of the Arizona Coyotes, tonight's opponent for the Ottawa Senators. But where do you think this one fell off the rails? Because just looking at it and watching the highlights, of course, I was in Belleville, or in the Canada Life Center for the Belleville game, so I didn't get to catch this one live. But just from the highlights, it seemed like the momentum really shifted after those 2 early goals in the second.
Yeah, Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane doing what they do. They hooked up for a couple goals quickly in the second period, and it was all downhill from there. Like they were scored within like 2 minutes of each other. And you talk about momentum goals, Ross. That was a double whammy momentum goal. Quick goal right to start the period, and then quick goal right after they scored that one. And I don't know what it was like for fans that had boots on the ground for this game, but watching on TV, it seemed like the air was deflated out of that building. And it was a big attendance record, almost 15,000 fans in attendance. And they're up 2-0. Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane make them look mortal again. The Sens, that is, and Forsberg, and they just couldn't recover after that. Like Caleb Jones scores, Nick Paul gets a quick one, but that Another momentum goal. Ross, it was less than 10 seconds after Nick Paul tied it up that they scored again to go up 4-3. So when that happened, you knew this game was over. Like, Chicago was not going to let the Sens get back into this one, and they didn't.
I've just been rolling my eyes ever since you said a good attendance night with 15,000, because what happened to the days where it was 18-5 every night? Well, I do know that sent away everyone who anyone liked watching and all the best players. So
Pandemic doesn't help either.
No, that's fair. And I mean, it was a better crowd than they've been getting, even since the capacity restriction is lifted. I don't think we'll see that same tonight against the Arizona Coyotes on a Monday. However, the Sens are on the ice for their morning skate. And Pilsy, your prayers have been answered, buddy. Philip Gustafson is in the starter's end at practice.
Yeah, and that's good. Hey, Ross, but if I was a fan in the area, this is a game is a must-watch. After an 8-5 game last time they played, you got to tune in to check out how this one's going, especially if you can go there live. But yes, I am glad finally Philip Gustafson is getting a game. And I want to reiterate, this isn't an anti-Forsberg take.
Whoa.
This is
not Anton's brother?
yeah. Anti-Forsberg. That's a good one there. But this isn't me saying I don't want to see Forsberg play. That's not it at all. I want to see Gustafson play in hockey games, whether it's NHL or AHL. This guy just needs to get starts. So I'm so glad he's finally getting that opportunity. And Forsberg, like we mentioned in the postcast, that looked like a guy that needed the night off. Not because he let in terrible goals or made a bunch of mistakes, but he was just overwhelmed. 6 goals on 28 shots. That's not the Forsbergler we know and love.
No, and we're going to get to the Belleville Sens, who could have used the same thing, because Matt Sogard shouldn't have played the second half after making 45 saves and going an extra full overtime period and a 3-round shootout. But we'll touch on that after. We'll also preview the Arizona Coyotes, who have won 6 of their last 10. They have almost half of their wins on the entire season in the last 10 games. We'll discuss why and how they've started to figure it out. But Pilsy, first, you've got a word from one of our favorite new sponsors.
Yeah, I'm stoked that I got home, Ross, because when I got home, there was a big box right at my door from Athletic Greens. Guys, you have to check out this new sponsor of ours. I'm very excited to introduce them, because this is something that I'm going to start using every day. Because look, I don't have time to be super healthy. I want better gut health. I want more energized. I want an optimized immune system, especially in today's world. But I don't want to take all these pills and things like that. I want something that tastes great. So I'm so excited to try these new products from Athletic Greens, and I've got them right here. So if you're watching on YouTube, check it out, what they got me. This is the AG1. So this is the daily comprehensive and convenient nutrition. It's a 30-day supply in here, and they hooked me up with the little case here. You got the water bottle and a scooper. And I know this is a weird thing to say, but this is a nice, tough, hard metal scooper, so you feel like you really got some weight to it there. And finally, this is the AGD3 plus K2. Vitamin D3 paired with vitamin K2 for better utilization in an easy-to-use dropper. Vitamin D3 supports a strong immune system, better cardiovascular health, and optimal cognitive function. So there's a lot of benefits to taking AG1 and taking all the products at Athletic Greens, and we want you guys to try them as well. So right now, it's your time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into flu and cold season. It's right here. This is usually when it gets tough. So it's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. I can do it. Ross can do it. You can do it. It's easy. That's it. No need for a million different pills, and you got to wonder, what are the side effects? What am I putting into my body? No, none of that. Don't worry about that. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Guys, I've got the travel packs here as well. You can put them in your bag if you're heading on a snowboard trip like I was and you want to stay healthy every day. You can do it with these travel packs. So all you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com BetOnline.ag/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutrition insurance.
All right, Pelsey, we thank our friends at Athletic Greens for making us have the fit test. Are you going to do a six-pack challenge? Are you going to show off your six-pack at the last game of the season or what?
That's not a good idea. To use a classic dad joke, I don't have a six-pack. I got the whole keg. It might take a while for me to do that. So I think, you know what? Let's circle back around next year, and maybe I'll have the six-pack ready thanks to our friends at Athletic Greens.
All right, keep Pillsy honest. At Brandon Pillar 1 on Twitter. You can follow me at Ross Levitan. The show is at Sens Central. We'd appreciate it if you subscribe and be on the lookout for more giveaways. We gave away a couple autograph cards last week, thanks to our friend Dylan out in Newfoundland. So stay tuned at Sens Central. If you're following along this weekend, you knew that I was at the Belleville Senators game on the call with David Foote. I really appreciate him giving me the opportunity to join him up in the booth in an NHL barn. That was fun. Did the postcast from up there on Saturday, but that game didn't go well. Friday was a good game. Saturday did not go well. And even Friday, if it wasn't for Mad Sogard, that wasn't going to be a win either. But because Belleville got the win on Friday, Pillsy, and the out-of-town scoreboard was aces as well. Laval, Toronto, and Rochester all losing on Friday night.
Yes.
They jumped from 5th to 2nd in terms of points percentage in the North Division. Now, since then, Saturday didn't help, but still a successful 2-game trip out to Winnipeg when you consider a few things. Now, we'll get into who stood out for me and who maybe is a little further away from the NHL than I think fans want to believe. There are two guys that fit that bill, but all in all, great experience. And man, Mad Sogard, I love how competitive he is, because even though it could have been easy to kind of fold the tent second half of back-to-back, they're already down a few. The second, third, and fourth goals, it's like, okay, what are you really going to do? Very poor defensive zone coverage. And then the fifth one, he was so rattled. He snapped the stick right over his crossbar after he got pulled. And it was kind of a nice moment, though. Logan Fladell, a PTO guy, gets his AHL debut. And he grew up playing for a team called the Regina Senators. So it kind of came full circle for him there. But Matt Sogard, the reason why they got to leave with 2 points from Winnipeg.
Ross, did you collect Mad Sogard's broken stick too?
No, I didn't. I didn't have time to do that. Should we, if in case anyone missed the game, I pulled up the highlight here of Igor Sokolov's shootout goal, because this is one of those you're not going to see very often. And he shot second. It was Jake Lucchini first. And Lucchini, and you can go see the highlight if you want to at Ross Levitan on Twitter. I tweeted that out there. What a goal. Like, he's just cruising in, slow and steady. And
what do you expect?
Unreal. Absolutely unreal. Here's Igor's goal against Manitoba in the shootout.
Coming in. Sokolov to the high slot. He broke his stick, but he still scores!
With the one-arm salute all the way back to the bench. He broke his stick in overtime. Now another one, but it's a change-up.
Unbelievable stuff there, eh, Pilsy? So after the game, I'm walking down, and I didn't want to go and be like, the guy standing outside the dressing room. But David Foote, my partner, has to interview the coach after each and every game. You can find that on Belleville Sens YouTube. And as we're coming around the corner, Igor's taking the stick in two hands and walking towards the garbage can. So I yelled at him. We had talked briefly before that. And I was like, Igor, you throwing that out, man? He says, no, you want it? Absolutely. Like, that was my first pro call. It'd be a nice little souvenir. You've obviously been on the show before. And I wasn't going to ask him to sign it. Like, again, you don't want to be that guy. I'm trying to be professional here. And then Footy comes out from his interview with Troy Mann, and he's like, Igor, sign it. That's a nice little bit of memorabilia. So I don't know what I'm going to do at the top, but this is going to find its home on my bookshelf there. The Igor special from the shootout game winner. I guess the other team scored a beauty after, so it didn't turn out to be the game winner, but the Belleville actually scored on all three of their shooters.
No, it was the winner because, the Moose scored one, and Igor scored the second goal, right? So still the winner.
Weird. No, because it didn't clinch it. No, they scored twice. Manitoba scored twice in the shootout.
Oh, damn. Okay, I must have read that box.
They scored the second and then the third one.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
Hey, it was still a beauty. And to score a goal breaking your stick like that, like, that's where, as a goalie, that's tough because if the stick doesn't break, he probably stops that shot. But when you got half a stick flying at you, that'll happen.
And the craziest part was his stick broke in overtime as well and gave up a 3-on-1 rush the other way. But it was an awesome defensive play. I forget who broke it up, but whoever did, man, credit to them, because that was a back and forth overtime. The best player on the ice was Lassa Thompson on Friday night. He had 2 goals announced in the arena, and then they were both later changed because the first one was tipped. I'm forgetting who tipped the first one. Do you have it in front of you?
I've got it here. Rook Chartier,
Yes.
a guy who's really been popping off for the Sens lately.
He centered Igor and Roby all weekend. So he had the first one, and then Kaslik tipped in the second one on his birthday. So that was a nice little bonus for him to do that. But he's so good at both ends of the ice. Like, to me, before, I was like, okay, Lassie, JBD. Lassie is so much closer to the NHL than JBD. It's like, I think JBD might need a whole other year in the AHL before he's ready to go. Like, he's still kind of playing to survive out there versus kind of being assertive. Like, you could tell that Lassie's like, when he gets the puck, he knows what he wants to do with it next. JBD, with the puck at least, he's still good defensively on the first penalty kill unit. Like, if you want to kind of round out his game, he's going to need at least another year down there.
And nothing wrong with that. I mean, he's a young defenseman, and look, there's high hopes for JBD. I still have him kind of pegged as Thomas Chabot's future partner, but there's no need to rush a young defenseman into the NHL. And Ross, you mentioned Lassa Thompson was the best player other than Sogard on Friday night. Well, big reason why you get destroyed the next night is you don't have your best player on the ice in that Saturday game. And I think that, as you can tell, made a big difference in the second game.
And he was replaced by Dylan Hetherington, who flew in and met the team. He had some family stuff to take care of between being sent down from Ottawa, and he was just uncalibrated. Let's put it that way. It like three passes that missed completely and went for icing in the first.
Well, he hasn't
period.
played in a long time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
it's not roasting Hetherington. It's just he just didn't have it. And I even threw in on the broadcast a little LOSP promo. I said, Footy, we always do our locked on player to watch, and for me, it's Hetherington tonight. And then he ices it like 4 times the next shift. Sick. I mean, he did kind of represent what the team did. Troy Mann called it their worst game of the year. I hazard to say it was the Laval game in game 1. So now I've seen their 2 worst games all year, live and in person, buddy.
Way to go, Ross. I mean, we're just mushes lately here. Jeez.
Yeah, no question. But the Friday game was definitely worthwhile. Made the whole weekend worth it. That Rook Chartier, as you mentioned, double-digit goals for him, double-digit goals for Mark Kaslik, his 11th. And yeah, no scoring in the third period. What I loved about the game on Friday is only 5 penalties the whole game. And it just, the flow, only 1 penalty near the end of the third period, no penalties in the first. So it was just free-flowing hockey. You get all 4 lines involved, and it was just an awesome game, awesome weekend. And I got to talk about Roby as well, because going down in the tunnel of the arena as well before the game, like, I didn't realize, like, you can see 6'3" or whatever on his bio. That kid is an absolute mammoth. He's got like the baby face on him as well. Like, he is going to be a player, I think. And he scored the lone goal for Belleville on the second game. But Pilsy, he then got a 10-minute misconduct for flipping the puck over the boards, kind of in protest after a penalty call, not on him. So he gets a 10-minute call for that. And then Troy Mann after the game said it was a teaching moment for him because that was midway through the second. Now, if it's a close game, does this kind of get changed? Maybe. But Troy sat him right in the middle of the bench, and he did not play the rest of the game after that. Said, hey, the refs should have kicked you out for that. That was bonehead play, rookie play. Don't do that. So I'm going to basically kick you out anyways. So Roby ended up sitting on the bench for the second half of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, that's fair. And that's something that, look, you're going to have frustrating games. You're going to have times like that. But you can't selfishly do that to your team. Sure, you may be upset and you may have these emotions, but flipping the puck out like that, that's some Bush League men's hockey type stuff, right? Like, hey, if you're not going to call the game right, nobody's playing. I'm tossing our only puck for the night into the stands here. But yeah, you got a Roby. He's sneaky big. And I think people think of him as a goal scorer, a guy with a quick release, which is all right. But you got to remember that size. And he's as you mentioned on the broadcast, Ross, one of the youngest players in the AHL, in the whole league this year. So he's got a lot of time to grow into that body, to get some more muscle, to learn how to play physically and all that kind of stuff. And he had a Josh Norris-esque goal right in Josh Norris's office, the one-timer. We've seen that before. He had a game winner. I forget when it was, but he had 2 goals in that game with the game winner on the power play, same spot. So, hey, Ross, that's a guy I would love to see on the second power play unit for the Ottawa Senators as their finisher.
Yeah, and it was funny timing because if you start the highlight pack, I mentioned expect him to set up in Josh Norris's spot. That's because Saturday was the 300th game in Belleville Sens history. And right when we came back from break before that power play, Footy rattled off the team points leaders all time. And it's 1 Drake Batherson and 2 Josh Norris. So it just rolled into that. And then boom, he scores 2 seconds later, him and Michael Del Zotto playing a little pitch and catch. And for all the people, and myself included, that look at the numbers with Michael Del Zotto and be like, how the hell is this guy not in the NHL? His defensive effort in the AHL is so bad.
I thought you were going to say good.
There was a 2-on-0 from the top of the circle because he doesn't stop and start. He turns like he's on a speed skating course, and it was tough to watch. Like there were 3 goals where he is the trailer as the defenseman on the rush back. So yes, he's an offensive defenseman. You want him jumping up and taking chances, but it was tough to watch at times for sure.
So hopefully other NHL general manager are looking at the box score, not watching the game.
He's not
here.
going to Winnipeg. Chevy was at the game on Saturday.
Yeah, damn. And hey, just one last quick shout out. You and Footy absolutely killed it. The chemistry was there for sure. You guys are playing off each other. And you could have told me and everyone else watching, Ross, that this is your 4th season doing color commentating in the AHL, and I would have believed you. So good job, buddy.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, that was a whole lot of fun. Belleville goes 1-1 on the weekend. They're now 3rd in points percentage in the North Division. They're taking on the team that's in 1st. It's going to be a tough one tomorrow night against the Utica Comets. They will be without Lassa Thompson, as it sounds like it's going to be a 2-3-4 week injury, which is just tough, especially when you double that up with Kevin Mandolese being out 6 to 8 weeks, and he was just starting to get in a rhythm with
6
Belleville.
to 8 weeks?
Yeah, it's a knee.
Man, and now this, I think it's all but certain that Forsberg will not be traded. Like, I would almost put it at a 0% chance because they can't afford that right now with Murray. Who knows how long he's out, Mando out all that time. And
well, if someone offers you a deal you can't refuse, you just say, okay, well, you got to give me a goalie. Like, take your pick who, but we need at least 1, maybe 2 coming back the other way.
Yeah, Ross, and I mentioned it before. I really see Florida as a partner here, and I could see them being like, all right, we'll give you Jonas Johansson back in return, and that's not great.
You know what? That's kind of that's a cheeky move you can do in Chell too, where you want to tank the season, just trade for the worst goalies. So, hey, if the Sens, they've been getting points here and there, and maybe at this point in the season, you're looking towards the draft lottery a little bit more. And we've been trying to stay away from that on this show because it's just depressing, and we're gonna have plenty of time to get to the what is it? That's how long it's been. What's the
tank simulator?
The tank simulator. My God, that's something I don't need to see for a little while. But if the Senators were to get, let's say a team is just desperate, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they want to give up a 1st-round pick for Anton Forsberg. You say, all right, get. I don't know if Mrazek has term left. You wouldn't want to trade.
I think he has 1 more year at like 3.5 or something like that.
Okay, maybe that's a bad example. Then give us like
you got $10 million in salary if you got Murray and Mrazek.
No.
2 of the most inconsistent. Well, Murray's only inconsistent because of his health, really. But but Mrazek, I don't like that. If you watch the outdoor game, Ross, I would rather take Jonas Johansson than Peter Mrazek because it was not pretty.
Yeah, that's fair. And the Toronto Maple Leafs lose to Craig Anderson again. Win number 301 for Craig Anderson. Credit to him. Absolutely awesome there. So, yeah, thanks for all the support this weekend. That was awesome. Really appreciate that when it comes to the Belleville Sens. I also got – actually, I'll show you this. This was kind of cool. Footy taped this up for me as well. So, I got a little where is it here? First pro game puck from footy there. Ross
There you
Levitin,
go.
how are you?
That's awesome.
Team got the win for me as well. Shout out to the boys down there. So, yeah, I think that my biggest takeaway, if I was to do one, it's that Lassa Thompson, get this kid to the NHL sooner rather than later once he recovers from his injury. Both ends of the ice, he's just unreal. The boys love him too. Also, the Great Dane, shout out Saeed Kuda for giving us that on Twitter at Sens Central. I feel like the Great Dane and the K Train are the ones that have caught on the most. And Timmy Superstar's got to be up there too. But we have some fun with the names. And in the tunnel before the game, Igor, as Mads comes by, is like, starting in goal, it's the Great Dane. And then they get out on the ice. So that's just such an awesome kind of connection that the show now has with the team. So shout out Belleville. We're going to be following them down the stretch. I talked to Footy, and he'll be our liaison here to get a few more guys on. I want to get Justin Peters on, the goalie coach. We got to chat with him a bit this weekend, and obviously it's tough for him right now too because he's working with so many new guys game in and game out. Seems like there's different guys down there. So not only that, and hey, look at this, breaking moves as well. We're just talking about Rourke Chartier. I didn't realize he was on a PTO this whole time. Well, he's been released from his PTO and signed to a standard AHL player contract for the rest of the year. So stick taps there. And next, sign Lucchini to a two-way NHL deal because that kid is absolute money for the Belleville Senators. All right. So that being said, it's a Senators game day. The Sens morning skate is just wrapping up. So we'll get to that in a moment. I'm going to plug it in to the Canva graphic. And while I'm doing that, we'll get our locked on players, our keys to victory. Pills, you got a quick word from our friends at BetOnline.
Absolutely, Ross. BetOnline.net, they were the key sponsors for today's podcast. And for a good reason, Ross. They are the trusted online sportsbook of the Locked On Senators podcast. And you can check out all the latest odds, totals, player performance props. They have everything at betonline.net. It's your number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for your sports scores, your podcasts, your news this season, whatever you need, they got it. If you want an inside track on your sports betting, you have to head to betonline.net. And it's not just hockey, guys. It's basketball. There's college hoops coming up. March Madness is literally coming around the corner. There's boxing, UFC. They have whatever you need. So head to the website today, or if you're at the game, boots on the ground scouting, we love to see that. You can bet right on your mobile device. To learn more about the trends and the actions, head to betonline.net, where the game starts. And Ross, we also have a word from our friends at Built Bar. I was out on a snowboard trip. You guys knew that. I brought my Built Bars along with me because they are the perfect protein bar. You can put them in your pocket, put them in your backpack. If you're on your way to school, on your way to work, you don't have time to pack a proper lunch, make sure you got a Built Bar with you because they are the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. And Ross, what do Built Bar and the Toronto Maple Leafs have in common?
They both crumble in your mouth?
Close. They're soft. Soft and easy to chew. That's Built Bar's best part, is their texture to me. I love the way you don't have to. Some of these protein bars are rock hard. You got to eat them with a knife and fork, not Built Bars. And what Built Bar does is they make sure it tastes great, and then they find out how to make it healthy. So you don't have to worry about that temptation when you're thinking, do I have a candy bar or do I have a protein bar? Why not have both? It's the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Guys, head to built.com today. And since you're a loyal listener of the Locked On Senators podcast, you know we're going to hook you up with a sweet deal. So put in the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your next order. Guys, for the people in the back, if you didn't hear me, head to built.com. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your next order. It's Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar.
All right, so it's an Ottawa Senators game day at home against the Arizona Coyotes. Coming off a win over the Toronto Maple Leafs, but then where'd they lose? In Montreal? They must be doing the
I think it was Boston.
Okay, so they're doing a little Eastern swing, and they're coming in with, I'm
Boston.
sure, a lot of confidence, especially a certain Nick Schmaltz, Nodak Coyote, former a national champion with North Dakota. We'll touch on North Dakota in a couple minutes here to wrap up the show. But Arizona's in town. How do you avoid allowing 8 goals?
What a question. Well, first off, you need to not let those big momentum swings happen. Like, you cannot have 4 goals being scored at a time twice in a game here. And I feel like, Ross, that was a game where the Senators were playing down to their competition, and they let the Coyotes stay in this game and take over the game. And there's not a whole lot you need to do to beat this Coyotes team. Like, we're going to pull up the lines here in a second. Even as an Ottawa Senators fan, Ross, this might be the most underwhelming roster we've ever seen. And we've seen rosters where Andreas Englund and Cody Ceci were the top defensemen for certain games. So we know a thing or two about depleted rosters, and this is one hell of a depleted roster.
You might notice third line center scored his first NHL goal in the last game between these two teams.
Classic.
Former teammate of Lassa Thompson in Eels. We're talking about Matias Maccelli. These are how the Arizona Coyotes lines shake up. It's Travis Boyd, number 1 center Travis Boyd, in between Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz. The second line is Riley Nash between Alex Galchenyuk, Sens abroad, and Phil Kessel. Third line, Maccelli in between Lawson Krause and Hudson Fasching. And the fourth line, yes, the pick behind Brady Tkachuk, is the fourth line center on the Arizona Coyotes. Barrett Hayton is between Nick Ritchie and Louis Eriksson. On defense, it's Gostisbehere and Mayo, Moser and Strawman, and Kolya Chonok. Good luck with that one, Ross. And Capo Bianco in goal. We believe it's going to be Scott Wedgwood, but it could be Vejmelka as well, who's been up and down in his first season in North America. The Arizona Coyotes are 18-36-4, 6-4 though in their last 10, and Clayton Keller nearly a point per game, 56-58. He's their leading scorer. Who is your lookout player for Arizona?
Well, Rossi took the words right out of my mouth. It's Clayton Keller. I mean, I'm still on the train, and I'll give credit to Derek Lee. He's the guy that started the hype for this. Clayton Keller, in my books, should be the number 1 target for that scoring winger that they acquire, because he's already locked up with term at $7 million, which I think is a great deal for Clayton Keller. Look at the way he's putting up points. You just mentioned it, 56 points in 58 games with this roster, with these players. Imagine what he could do with Tim Stützle as his centerman. Those two would make magic together, and he's just on such a scoring pace. Like, his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, he has a point streak, and he has, I'm not going to do the quick math here, but he's got a lot of points in those games. So I'm saying Clayton Keller is my lookout player, because I really want to see this guy as an Ottawa Senator, and he's exciting to watch.
They would be so silly to trade him, though. He's locked up so long term, and by the time they're competitive, he should be the leader on this team. He already wears a letter as well. Another guy who is just completely red hot is his right winger, Nick Schmaltz. Yes, that Nick Schmaltz, who set a franchise record the last time these two teams played. If we go back to January 17th, he had a 3-point night against the Montreal Canadiens after really struggling, only 1 point in his 7 games before that. Pilsy, he has 32 points in his last 22 games.
Sheesh.
And on the Arizona Coyotes, he's plus 20 in those games. This guy is on an absolute heater, and 13 of his 15 goals are at even strength, which is even more impressive to me. And of his 32 points, 28 of them are at even strength. So you got to be careful when he hops over the boards every single time. And he's clearly making himself a trade candidate to somewhere. And he's got term left as well. So maybe they want to build with him. I don't know. But this kid coming over from Chicago in a
he was part of the Strome deal.
Exactly. And he looks absolutely electric. So my lookout player is across the same line as yours as we look into a key to victory. Pilsy, what would constitute an easy win for the Senators tonight? And maybe nothing comes easy when you're the Ottawa Senators.
Well, I'll echo my previous statement. It's just don't play down to this team. And we saw, Ross, the Ottawa Senators weren't the only team that this happened to. Similar
Correct.
Scenario, the Detroit Red Wings, the next game got spanked 9-2 in 2 games. These Arizona Coyotes scored 17 goals. Like, you can't have that happen, and they can't be playing down to their competition like that. So just play your game. Don't think that, hey, this is a weak Arizona Coyotes team, we can just run all over them. We've seen that, and it doesn't work out that way.
Yes, and hopefully the Senators learned from Saturday, because you mentioned it earlier. The game against Arizona, they allowed 4 consecutive goals against twice. Well, on Saturday, they did it 2 consecutive times with 3 goals in a row for Chicago Blackhawks, including a back-breaking goal when Nick Paul reties the game up at 3, and then they give up a goal 8 seconds later. And wouldn't you know, Josh Brown thought he was going to go forward. That's honestly the type of play that I saw at Del Zotto on Saturday, where it's like he's just cheating too much offensively and just leaving his partner in the dust. So that's something that has to be cleaned up defensively for the Ottawa Senators. This is how they line up tonight as per the morning skate. Nice to see Connor Brown back on the ice for a morning skate after taking off the last few. We know he's dealing with a nagging injury. The top line is Josh Norris with Brady Tkachuk and Connor Brown. Then Tim Stützle in between Alex Formenton and Tyler Ennis. The third line, Colin White between Nick Paul and Zach Sanford. And then Gambrell between Kelly and Watson. On defense, Shabbat Zub, Holden Zaitsev, and Brandstrom with Josh Brown. The starting goalie will be Philip Gustafson. He's 3-9-1 with a .366 goals against average and an .896 save percentage. And to make matters worse, Pilsy, Philip Gustafson, he's got 3 wins on the season, and the last one was November 13th. So you're
the
looking
only November win.
Yeah, you're looking at an 0-6 record in his last 6 games. What are you hoping to see out of him tonight?
I just want to see him play with some consistency. Ross, we always talk about it. You can tell what kind of game Philip Gustafson is going to have within the first 5 minutes. So let's see some good saves, good rebound control, good positioning. I want to see him hopefully have a good warm-up so that he's ready. Like we said, this guy hasn't played in quite some time. So I'm hoping Gustafson can have a good game here, because he needs to have a bounce back and he needs to get some confidence in him. And I'll transition over to my locked on player, Ross, and that's Tyler Ennis, because Tyler Ennis he's been a healthy scratch for quite some time here, and I don't feel like he deserved that. And say what you want, he's a guy that they signed on a PTO, his contract's expiring, probably not even going to get any trade interest, not going to bring back much value. So we'll see, but I think this is a guy that did his role better than Adam Gaudette, and I think he's racked up decent points in his time, both stints with the Ottawa Senators. So I'm stoked that the best ever lace him up will be back on the ice here, and I'm not talking about Nick Schmaltz.
I know, although he's probably pushing there. You said that's your locked on player?
Tyler Ennis is my locked on player.
All right, let's do it. I'm going to be locked on. I almost said Nikita Zaitsev. I'm curious to see how this guy plays, though, because at some point, and Arizona might be the only team that can and would take his contract for the last couple of years. So a showcase game as we're exactly 1 week from the deadline. But I'm going to go with the other player who seems more and more likely to move each and every passing day, and that's Nick Paul, who scored a goal, as I mentioned, against Chicago on Saturday. He's clearly a jack-of-all-trades type player for Ottawa, and it sounds like, well, if there's not a contract in place in the next 6 days, that he could be on his way out on trade deadline, which would be a real shame. He's the longest serving Senator right now, but they can't agree, and it wouldn't be the first fan favorite that's been out the door in the last little while. So I'm hoping that at the very least he can have a great week on the ice, because the business side, we know that that takes care of itself. But if he plays great this week, maybe he's got a little extra value and the Senators can do well in a return, which again, we don't prefer, but if he is going to go, let's go out with a bang. So I got Nick Paul as my locked on player, Pills.
Love it. And yeah, hopefully we see a little more calm of a game here, not a 8-5 barn burner, but it's going to be a good one for sure, and I'm stoked to watch.
And we've got a quick note on our Nodak Sens to wrap up the show. Tyler Clevin and Jake Sanderson both scoring. Woo! How about the call from the boys, Alex and Jake, on Midco? We get the Nodak Sens. We get the K-Train all involved. That was absolutely phenomenal to hear if you're a Sens fan, and credit to them for joining in on the fun. So that definitely gave a big smile to my face hearing that. But then that was wiped off quick, hearing that Tyler Clevin is going to be suspended for for the next game for his third major penalty of the season. Again, a college rule. And this hit was very similar to the one that Parker Kelly put on Connor Murphy. So, you got to take it, and that's the way it goes. But hey, they win the series in 2 straight, and for the Nodak Sens, they're heading to Minnesota now, where they'll play next weekend at the XL Energy Center.
Yep, and their opponents, just pulling it up here, sorry guys, is Western Michigan. And Ross, it's going to be interesting how they're going to do up against Western Michigan, because they lost both games in the series the first time they played, and then they won both games in the series the second time they played. So who knows how this one's going to turn out.
We will find out next weekend. We'll have plenty of time to preview that. But for today, we'll tell you that you can catch us in the postcast after the Senators host the Arizona Coyotes. So you know what to do. Subscribe on YouTube, turn the notifications on, and we'll see you in the postcast after tonight's game. For Brandon Pillar, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.